Hey, Tiger fans, it's Mark Fitzpatrick of Tiger Club of Kansas City. I'm at the Westport Flea Market on Tuesday, November 5th. Our speaker today, great Kansas City star, sports columnist, award-winning Vahe Gregorian. Vahe, thanks for coming out.
Great to be with you, Mark. Tiger Club's always been a great place to come, even when I was in St. Louis.
Let's talk about last night's game with the Chiefs. You had a column when Patrick was limping off or being helped off. You were there, I was not, but it seemed like on TV the stadium was completely silent.
Yeah, it's funny. I couldn't quite hear that well in the press box because it's glassed off, but I talked to a number of fans who said it just went silent, and it was one of those moments. There was about a minute or two where you were really scared for him. Then you started thinking, okay, well now he's halfway across the field and he's sort of getting away from the guys helping him, so maybe he'll be all right. But then he goes in the tent, and you're like, you see Wentz warming up. And then, 90 seconds later, the joke I always use is he just regenerated a limb, and then he's out there, doing dropbacks and comes back in the game and is as sharp or more than earlier. He actually talked after the game about how he probably played better because he stayed in the pocket more because of the injury.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So, talk about the Chiefs. They're 8-0, but we're all seeing they're not playing very well, but I saw a stat that they have the lowest point differential of any team that's ever been 8-0.
Yeah,
but they keep winning.
They keep winning, and it's the longest winning streak in franchise history. The 8-0 sort of is the same way as the last 6 that year. Other than that Dolphins game, they were all nail biters. It reminds me when Arkansas won the national title one year in basketball, they had like 3 or 4 games along the way that they should have lost, or people thought they should have lost. And I remember after one of them, Nolan Richardson, the great coach, said, they almost lost. I like when people say that. And that's sort of how it is with the Chiefs. And it's at this point, you can't say it's luck or coincidence. I mean, it is a method. And there's madness to this method, evidently, because it's maddening, I think, for fans. But did you not feel like they would probably prevail last night?
I thought Tampa Bay should have gone for 2.
That was
I was like, when he didn't go, I breathed a sigh of relief. We just came off a great Royal season, and totally, I think, unexpected. How do you see the future for them?
I think it's bright. I mean, I think it's the things they've done tell you that these are foundational things, not blips. And first of all, reinvesting right away in the starting pitching with Michael Wacha. The thing that's kind of neat about that is they've bought into free agency. They've gotten a couple good guys. They're allowing some space for their youngsters to come up and be more ready when they come up. It feels more and more like the way you want the process and the system to work. And obviously with Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Sal Perez, somehow Fountain of Youth, those 3 guys and building out around them offensively, this feels pretty good. And I think you can't appreciate the quantum leap enough of what they did from one season to the next.
You mentioned Sal. I just want to say real quick, you all ought to read his column about Sal winning the Clemente Award. Very good.
Oh, thanks. And that was, Sal Perez. I mean, it really, think about this time in Kansas City where you got Patrick Mahomes, who's, the magic unicorn, as one of my friends calls him, and a guy like Salvi Perez, who's, I think, going to be one of the most beloved athletes in Kansas City history. And it's as much or more for who he is than how he plays.
So, Missouri Tigers were off this week in football. Season is, I'd say, be a little bit of a disappointment. We had hopes of the playoff going.
Yeah.
How do you, and we don't know Brady Cook's status right now, your assessment of the team right now?
I'd say a little disappointing. I think, I think we understood that last year was a bit of a spike, an upward spike. But I think the hope was that established a new foundation or a new, depth where they were. And so having 2 of these really lopsided losses like they were is a little jarring, I think. And I get those are 2 of the hardest places on earth to play.
Right.
I've seen worse games in those places. But I think now we're back to sort of trying to reinterpret, just who are they and how good are they. I don't think they've got any shot at all now to make the playoff. I don't think. Maybe if some things fell right, but I don't think so. But I bring that up as a secondary point. How they run through the tape the rest of the season is going to be really meaningful to what we should expect going forward.
And a 9 or 10 win season would still be
that would not be would not be troublesome that way, right? I mean, you can have, if you do that, then you feel like, okay, they held the line, and you know, you still have to identify what the heck happened in these other games, like what was the gap. But
Last thing I want to ask you, unrelated, somewhat unrelated sports. You wrote a series of columns earlier this year about other venues in Kansas City and other things going on. What was your highlight of that?
well, there were a lot of highlights, and you know, what a kind of a joy to get to go around Kansas City doing different things. But what ended up being a sort of 1-2 punch highlight was time spent at the new Harry S. Truman Library and Museum, which you got to go to if you haven't been. I mean, it's really great. And that time was spent with the Society of Presidential Descendants, not to name drop, but I was with a couple of those. And then that led to, though, a trip onto the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier. And not just, you know, it's in port and you walk up on there. We flew out into somewhere in the ocean, undisclosed site, in an old Greyhound, they're called. You're flying backwards and you don't have windows. And the only reason you know you're landing is the two guys at the front of the plane start yelling like, okay, we're hitting. And then you hit at 150 miles per hour and stop in 3 seconds. And then the hatch opens, and it's like the scene in the start of Top Gun where you smell the jet fuel and all these mists around you and planes coming and going. And we stayed there 24 hours and salute the service. To see what they do, what they go through. That's just one little snapshot, but I have great admiration for it.
We start calling you Maverick now? Or?
Yeah, you should.
Hey, Vahe, thank you.
Thanks.
He's the best. What a great columnist. We're so lucky to have him. Next week, our guest speaker will be Annie Rogers from MLB.com. She's a Mizzou grad, covers the Royals. She's spoken to us before and really has a lot of insights on what should be a very exciting offseason for the Royals. For more information on speakers and events, go to kctigerclub.com.